Hi, it's Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter, and welcome to Career Coach Office Hours. It is a lovely day, my wife's birthday, as it turns out. And I spend time on Tuesdays and Fridays talking with people and answering their questions about job search, hiring more effectively, management, leadership, career transition, dealing with different workplace issues. So if you've got a question for me, put it into chat. I'd be very happy to answer it. Also, I'm going to remind you to visit my website, which is thebiggamehunter.us. I've got thousands of posts there in the blog, over 12,000 of them that you can watch, listen to, or read. You can schedule time for a free discovery call with me, schedule time for a coaching session. I'd love to help. Also, let me mention, there's just so much I make available, including my courses, books, and guides. They will help you. A lot of them are focused on interviewing. I'm working on one right now for older professionals to help with job search and interviewing. So in the meantime, visit thebiggamehunter.us. Like I said, a ton in the blog that'll help. Also, subscribe to JobSearchTV.com on YouTube. You can download the app on Amazon. So if you've got a Fire TV or Fire Stick, you can watch me there, or on the BingeNetworks.tv app. You can subscribe to it, and I release content almost daily at this point. But a lot of good content is available that you can watch on your big screen set. I'll also mention I host the #1 podcast in Apple Podcasts for job search, more than 2,450 episodes over almost 12 years. November 20th is the anniversary of the show. So we're coming up on the 12th anniversary, and I'm still going, still a lot of content available. So subscribe there. There's just a lot that will help you. I'll also mention, follow me or connect with me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/IN/the Big Game Hunter. Mention that you saw the live stream. I like knowing I'm helping some folks. And, I put a lot of effort and time into sharing information with people. So again, if you've got a question for me, feel free to put it into chat. I'd be very happy to answer. Now, I received a lot of questions before the show that I'll try and get to as many as I can. But if you've got a question, you're here. I'm going to field it for you. So, Scott, hello. Hope you're well today. And feel free to chime in and ask a question if that's what you like. Great to have you here. And I've got a first question from someone. And that is, why do some recruiters act as if they love candidates and then ghost them? 2 years ago, I got an interview with a highly ranked employee. It seemed well, I have to assume employer. It seemed well. He said I'd be a great match. We even talked 35 additional minutes, and then he disappeared. So, Scott, I'm going to come back to you in a second, okay? So I'm not sure if this is a corporate recruiter or a third party. I'm going to assume corporate recruiter here. And corporate recruiters don't hire people. They screen people on behalf of a hiring manager. And thus, what probably happened is he or she really enjoyed the conversation with you. They thought you were interesting. They thought you might be qualified for the role. They covered a lot of things with you. It's also possible you talked a lot. I wasn't there. I don't know. I'm just putting this out as an option. And thus, we could be in a situation where someone, felt the need to go into more detail with you about things, and then they couldn't deliver you to their internal client. So why do they act as though they love you? Because it's a form of manipulation and salesmanship on their part. Oh, we think you're terrific. I'm sure I can get you that interview. And then they can't because they don't make the decision. The hiring manager does. So why does this happen? They said you'd be a great fit, a great match. You know, it they do it in order to persuade you and to make you feel interested. So that's why it's done. Samit, I'm going to come to you in a second. Let me just come here to Scott. How can we kill the ATS? And the answer is you can't. On their side of this, they view the ATS as a way that helps them with government reporting. It helps with tracking internally. Everything is maneuvered through the system. The however is you can do a better job of getting through the ATS. And these systems are set up pretty simply. One way that they're set up is they want to see the keywords that are in the job description that you're applying to. So they want to see identical language. They don't want to see fuzzy language. They want to see it earlier in the document rather than later in the document. Yes, this means you have to tailor your resume to every job. But right now, submitting a resume through an ATS, that one generic resume, doesn't work for most people. The way to get more interviews, if you're going to apply, which by the way, never, ever apply for a job through an applicant tracking system. It's called the black hole for a reason, right? So why are you wasting your time doing that? Network your way into the organization. Find someone who can introduce you to a hiring manager or point you to the hiring manager. So this way you can get your resume directly in front of me. And I know to you it's useless because you're not the customer to them. You're not the customer. The employer is the customer. They're the ones writing the check. So is there a list of non-ATS companies? No. Your biggest shot is with smaller firms that wouldn't have an ATS. But remember, larger ones are subject to government reporting requirements. So it's a data collection process. The data also allows them to demonstrate to the government they're not conducting themselves in a racist or biased manner. So again, you're not the customer, Scott. The employer is the customer. And they use this to CYA, cover their derriere with the federal government in the United States to protect them from problems. So, sorry, there's no list of non-ATS companies. You might try a Google search, companies that don't use ATSs. Let's see what turns up. I don't think you'll find it. Yes, you're the commodity. Scott added in, I'm the commodity. You're absolutely right. But do you write the check? No. Someone else can also get that job. And from their standpoint, once you're applying through an applicant tracking system, you are a commodity. It's true. It's absolutely true. And as a commodity, you're devalued and you're treated in a devalued way. Go around the applicant tracking system. The applicant tracking system is like the bouncer in a nightclub. It's there to block the door to people that they don't want to let in. The back door, where someone lets you in, that's the preferred way. A third way is the side door. The side door is where you become, they're drawn to you. You've done something magnetic that makes them reach out to you. But like in a nightclub, you never want to deal with the bouncer, right? But you're trying to deal with the bouncer. Do they negotiate with you? If you give them some money, they'll let you in. But the fact of the matter is, they've got their rules. They've got their list. You don't get through the bouncer. So I wish it were different. It would have been a lot easier as a recruiter. I remember the days where you could just call someone on the phone and say, I want to schedule an interview for this person. They fit your requirement. It was easy there. But everyone now uses an ATS because they've got to keep data. So sorry, I wish I had a different answer. Sumit, and by the way, um, uh, Scott, if you've got more questions, feel free to put it in the chat. Okay. Sumit, I feel with increasing age, I become less eligible for jobs. Is my fear valid? I'm not sure how old you are. I'm not sure where in the world you are, because in some cases, being older is considered um, preferred. As you go up the chain of command in organization, uh, by the way, Scott, I'll get to your next comment in a minute. As you go up the chain of command in most organizations, being older is preferable. After all, there are very few 21-year-old CTOs, right? There are very few 28-year-old SVPs, unless they're in small companies. And well, unless they're in small companies. So age has a degree of validity for more senior roles. There comes a point where, like on a bell curve, you start to cross over and there's a descent that occurs. There's no specific age for when that descent occurs. 50-year-old programmers are not considered valuable. They're considered past their prime. 60-year-old accountants, much the same thing. By a certain point, there's the expectation that you've led, you've managed, you've run an organization, and then you're looking for a way out of that as time progresses. So ageism exists. Let's just acknowledge that. But part of it is, if someone's too old for the role that they're in, by whatever standard the interviewer has, you wind up in a situation where, you know, people will consider you ripe past your time, like the date on a milk container. You're past the expiration date, and thus bias starts to come into the equation. It's not about are you qualified, but that they have the idea that you're too senior for this role. What's wrong with you? And that's the thinking process. The what's wrong with you becomes hard to defeat. So, Sumit, I hope this was helpful. Um, Again, I don't know your age, and I don't need to know your age to answer that question. And if you want to ask me something else, by all means, feel free. Back to Scott. The fourth way, the fourth way is to declare them a biased job crushing entity that needs to be removed. It does not. If you want to take the time to do that, by all means, do that. But you're dealing with an applicant tracking system, and by definition, I'm not sure that it's biased. Job crushing, I don't know if it's job crushing. Humanity crushing, by all means, but most people have gotten used to this. After all, they work in organizations that operate with rules and procedures that are more about CYA than getting stuff done. No argument there. So you can do that if you want, but I think it takes away from the time you could spend finding the role that you want. Your choice. Your choice. Timothy, good morning. Hope you're well, and feel free to add a question in the chat. Be happy to answer it. And hope you're well, and it's nice to see you in the room today. In the meantime, I'm going to go to another question, which is, should you basically expect any employee you don't give a promotion or raise to quit? And let me just get that into chat. Bear with me one moment. There we go. Quit management, quit the workplace. So the answer is, employees get a message from the fact that they're not getting a raise and they're not being promoted. Now, if no one's being promoted, management can announce that no one's getting promotions this year. We don't have that kind of a hierarchy. We're relatively flat. So you're going to remain in your title probably for another year, maybe two. And that becomes a way that they can communicate how they structure their organization. For a raise, if they don't communicate about a raise, well, what that says, you're in a situation where um, maybe they can't afford raises. Or if you're the one or among a few people who don't get a raise, okay, there's a message in that. I wouldn't necessarily quit. I'd find another job. I'd look for a job on their dime and come to a decision about which serves me best, the existing firm or another firm. You do what's right for you. But the message ultimately in not getting a raise, in not getting a promotion, if all employees, you wind up in a situation where um, no one's getting advanced, well, you're not isolated. I'd still look for another job because inflation is as high as it is. And most people don't understand it's not 8.4%. When you take taxes into equation, you have to earn more than 10% to just break even. Everyone's worked for a month this year for free in order to deal with inflation. So, yes, I would expect that people will start looking for other things and leave. And if that's what you want, that's perfect. They're going to leave of their own volition. You don't have to fire them. You don't have to be the bad guy here. You can just simply say, we're not giving out raises to people at your level and expect people are going to leave. And Scott added in the quiet quit. The one thing about the quiet quit, that's for an existing employee. It's not for new hires. You're not dealing with the applicant tracking system. When you're doing a quiet quit, that's about you and doing minimally viable work and putting up with your current firm. It's not about the next firm. It's not about interfacing with an applicant tracking system. So, yeah, in your existing firm, if you're not happy with the fact that you're not being considered for other roles, you should start looking at other things. But then you're onto the applicant tracking system. What can you do when you get ghosted for a job interview? I'm going to assume you're the job hunter here. And as the job hunter, you want to flush them out. And you don't want to go, hey, you stood me up. You don't want to be rude to them. We all make mistakes, even you. So what you can do is send them a message through whatever the medium is that you've been communicating with them. Phone, email, text, WhatsApp, whatever it is. And just simply say, are you okay? We were scheduled for an appointment at 1:00 today. I was there, you weren't. I just want to make sure you're okay. You'll get some sort of, uh, response on them that says, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I had an emergency." They'll make excuses, just like candidates make excuses. But you'll flush them up, which is what you're trying to do. You're going to make them feel guilty, which is good. You're not going to be angry because that gives them an excuse for blaming you and being happy that they stood you up. So I'll just simply say, are you okay? Is one of the best subject lines of an email I used to use when I did recruiting. And it just makes them feel guilty for having stood you up. Is it possible to be both technical and managerial at the same time as an IT professional? Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, so many organizations have these hybrid roles set up where people function in both dimensions. So, yes, it clearly can be the case. And, it's not the same as being committed in one direction or another. So, in some organizations, when you're in a hybrid role, you're not valued as much as you are in the all management role or in the all technical role for that matter. So, um, I just simply say, yes, it's definitely possible. What does it mean? Oops, sorry, clicked the wrong link. What does it mean when a hiring manager says, we are still in process and recruitment will reach out for an update very soon? I reached out to get an update. Is it positive or rejection? They're avoiding you. Um, Scott, I'll come to you in a second. Um, they're avoiding an answer. What they're basically saying is, don't call us, we'll call you. You reached out for an update. They're not ready to tell you anything yet. They're saying they'll be in touch with an update soon. No commitment on their part. But I will also tell you that they're dating other people. They're still interviewing. They're not ready to make a commitment to anyone yet. Okay. Scott, let's see now. What is the truth of the idea of being blackballed in an industry? Are you aware of this occurring? It's rare because the communication between firms isn't as strong as people are led to believe. Now, don't get me wrong. If you wind up in a newspaper account for something that you did or didn't do, yes, everyone knows about you and you can be blackballed. So, for example, the quantitative analyst who walks out with a trading model to go to another firm and is taken out in handcuffs by the police or the FBI, yeah, that person can get blackballed. A person is caught trading using a model that a firm has to trade for their personal account. Yeah, you wind up getting caught and fired, and you can get blackballed. It becomes a story in local media, or the stories start occurring conversationally about, we just fired someone, and people are in the bars talking, and the story gets out, and yes, you screwed yourself. It tends to be more about illegality than it tends to be about late for an interview or didn't accept my job offer. I'm going to blackball them. What was your offer for? I wouldn't take that job. So that kind of stuff, there's no black. Now, agencies threaten this all the time. We're going to get you blackballed. You'll never work again. It's BS. That's BS because they don't have the clout to do that. They may influence a particular organization or more likely a specific manager at a firm to not talk to you. But to get you overall blackballed, no, doesn't exist, won't exist because, frankly, people are talent starved. They need people for their organization. Just because one firm has a bad experience doesn't mean another firm won't have a great experience. And it's a question of what are they being blackballed for? For most people, it's not reasonable. So don't sweat it, really. When a manager says, I don't know what I'm doing, how should an employee respond? Try this one. What can I do to help you? Excuse me for 1 second. What can I do to help you? I want to make sure that I can help you get over this hurdle. What don't you know anything about? Sorry, I didn't put the question in the chat. So, what can I do to help you? That's the simplest way an employee can respond. And then that employee can mobilize a small team around that person to get them the support that they need. So, you can be an ally because a manager is this way, or you can, after you've done that, I didn't mean that really. Don't say stuff like this. It doesn't present you in the best possible light. We're here to support one another. You've helped me in the past. I was here to help you. So I just simply say, if a manager ever says, I don't know what I'm doing, offer support and help just like you'd hope they would offer you. I'm just going to remind you, folks, if you've got a question about job search, hiring, management, leadership, dealing with a workplace issue, career transition, or want advice of some sort, put your comment or question in the chat. I'd be very happy to answer. Also, visit my website, thebiggamehunter.us, to schedule time for a free discovery call, schedule time for a coaching session, find out about my blog, which has more than 12,000 searchable posts in it that you can watch, listen to, or read that will help you find work more quickly. Also, I'm just going to remind you, subscribe to JobSearchTV on YouTube, download the app on Amazon, watch me on bingenetworks.tv, which goes to more than 300 streaming services, and subscribe to No BS Job Search Advice Radio in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, which is a video podcast, Google Play, Amazon Music, anywhere you listen to podcasts. I pretty much got this covered. And lastly, connect with me on LinkedIn or follow me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/in/the Big Game Hunter. Let's see now. I'm going to mention one more thing here, and that is, I believe this is still available for free, and that is there's a new book that was released. It's a PDF of a book called What We Got Wrong About Business. It's available as a download at thebiggamehunter.us/wrong. And you can go there. You're not going to suddenly wind up on a mailing list getting tons of emails. No, it's just you can get the download. Go enjoy. Okay. TJ Productions. How do you handle the lack of communication in the workplace? Some places are quiet places. No one talks. No one says anything. It's unfortunate. It is the way it is sometimes. And that has an impact. Now, I'm not sure what level you're at within that organization, but the simplest way to start doing it is, I think we could get more done if we took some regular time for connecting with one another and getting clear about tasks, responsibility, status, whatever the area of issue is. I'm not talking about doing this on the fly. I think it's important enough to put it into our calendars and do this on a regular basis, because I'm finding I'm losing track of things. And it would be so helpful if I knew what was going on in your department with whom I interact, or with you with whom I interface, and not just wait for you to lob something over to me that you need to have addressed, because I've got multiple priorities to address. I know this is something that existed with a coaching client of mine who wound up in a situation where there was a peer who complained that my guy wasn't doing enough for him, but never told him what he needed to have done until the last minute. And then, when lobbed in at the last minute, my guy had to respond by saying, I have other priorities. I want to help you, but I can't do it this instant because I've got something for the chairman right now I have to do. So, I can get to this in 2 days. But, you tell the chairman that you're more important than she is. And let's see how quickly, let's see if that works, okay? And you have to force it. You have to speak up. You have to explain why improved communications matters. And from that, you have a chance. And culturally, they'll revert, and you're going to have to bring this up as a subject repeatedly, because they don't have a habit of doing this. So that's your launch point. And when they start to try and do it, you praise the heck out of them. People love to hear that they did the right thing. It was really helpful to you, and it makes so much of a difference. Blah, 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 blah. You get the point, okay? I'm going to handle one more question today. Let's see now. In the hiring process, whose responsibility is it to call and verify references provided by the candidate? Is it the hiring manager, recruiter, HR, or someone else? The answer is it depends. Some firms even go so far as to using the external recruiter to do it for them. I know I did it for one of my clients, and I would write the report up using the HR person's name in the report. Whose responsibility is it to call? Sometimes they farm the work out to an external firm. And, excuse me for 1 second, they farm it out to an external firm to handle. It can be HR. It's rarely the hiring manager, but more likely the recruiter, someone within the department, or more likely a manager, I'm sorry, an external firm that does reference checking. So that's today's show. I hope you found it helpful. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll be back on Friday with more. I'm Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter. I'm just going to remind you, visit my website to schedule time for a free discovery call, a coaching session, to visit my blog, which is more than 12,000 searchable posts. Find out about my courses, books, and guides. You can also subscribe to JobSearchTV.com. There are a variety of different places, as well as No BS Job Search Advice Radio. And I'm also going to suggest you connect or follow me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/IN/the Big Game Hunter. I release a lot of content. It will help you. And as I've also mentioned, you can get a free copy of the ebook, What We Got Wrong About Business, by going to thebiggamehunter.us/wrong. Hope you have a terrific day. I'll be back Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Be great.